Do you think you're a good man?
I do, but I'll have to convince others. For me, my lust and hunger was for audience. Since the media is failing, the medium can hold up. I am the son of Chaplin.
Hello, sir, and welcome to Film Companion.
Thank you.
In your career, the action film has not been a very prominent genre. I mean, there have been films here and there like Vikram, Kurudhipunal, Thoonga Vanam, Vettaiyaadu Vilaiyaadu, Aalavandhan, though it's more of a psychological drama. Then you have the two Vishwaroopam films. But that's just a handful of films in over 200 films. Did it just happen this way, or is it just something that, is there a reason you were not interested, or?
Vikram was a half-baked attempt. I wish somebody like Mani or Sangeetam had directed that. It would have been a different film. But the market pressures at the time was to make a commercial film. They never understood the genre part of it. They simply wanted a film which all had 6 songs, all had 6 fights. There should be a sister-in-law or a mother or something. They were fixed tenets with which
they would come and tell you.
It must be there. And great screenplay writers who are not actually great, but they, because of the virtue of their success, became pundits of that thing, and they were the hegemony that we had to bow under. Many people fought. One of the most tenacious fighters against that system was Mr. Balachandran himself, single-handedly, till the younger flock came around. He was doing the battle all alone. So, and he was not an action person. Both Sridhar and they abhorred violence because, one, we didn't know how to do it. It was tacky. And they were intellectually inclined. So they are romantically inclined. So they went the direction. So we had only MGR for action or Mr. Jaishankar.
Right.
Nobody else did. So that was not sufficient feed for such a young mind who's seeing James Bond films and Hitchcocks and other things. So we were all vying to prove ourselves and aching to see a film like that. And we always thought the two predominant genres that were in our mind when many young filmmakers who became filmmakers and didn't become filmmakers, but they all spoke films. We all had two clear genres in mind. One was the mafia.
Okay.
And the other was this espionage. It never got realized. Love stories happened, thrillers happened, Wait Until Dark happened, because it was all emulatable. But this meant money, this meant research, above all a receptive audience, which we didn't have. And I can't even blame the audience because the money bags were holding us by a very tight leash, and much more the censors.
Right.
We had a censor board at that time. So to cross that, it became, I think we are late, Vishwaroopam is late by about 30 years. They say that I do things in advance. People would have definitely seen this film 30 years back. You'll have to explain to them the nuances of what is happening. Probably make it a little more elaborate. But with Vikram, I failed. As a matter of fact, me and Mani were caustic critics of Vikram. He had a better vantage point because he didn't produce it or direct it. But in spite of having produced, written and acted in it, I felt I had missed the point diluting it for Kodambakam. But there was always this thing. And this I wrote in actually 2006 or 7. Vishwaroopam. But nobody bought or bit into that idea. So I was selling it. Some of the best thinking directors, they didn't think there was anything to it at all. And including Ravi Kumar, who takes on to any new genre that I suggest, didn't want this. And so it kept, and again I tried selling this to Mr. Udayanidhi, but he rather preferred Manmada number to this. which was actually, I did it because they wanted it, they are the money maker. If they had done it, they would have had a rocking success in their hand. But anyway, so it fell into my lap. Apurva Sodharal also fell into my lap like that. So I have no complaints as such. But the complaint is a larger spectrum complaint of how many ideas die like this on the table without even coming to the bleeding edge at all, leave alone cut. It doesn't make the first cut.
Yeah. You just spoke about Vishwaroopam having been written about 2006-7 frame. So I have a question about that because Vishwaroopam, to my mind, is a very special film because no film industry in the world, to my knowledge, has made an action film in which the Muslim hero saves the world. I mean, I haven't seen this anywhere. The Muslim is usually the terrorist against whom the world has to be saved. Now, so actually when the ruckus, the political ruckus happened around it, you'd think the Muslims would be for the movie because they're finally being represented in a positive light.
That was shocked me in the sense because at 2006 it would have been a tepid, ordinary thriller. But as time grew and things happened, something unique happened with this film because I completed the script in 2010 or 11. I don't really put 2010 or 9. I don't remember. But when we gave it for permission, suddenly everything went quiet because we wanted to shoot in summer because it's easier to shoot in summer and I didn't want to walk into winter in New York. So, but we didn't get permission. And I had submitted the script in January, February. And February, I think February or somewhere around that time. And I was itching to shoot in May. But nothing happened. Then I thought, why is it? And then suddenly something extraordinary happened. A line from my script actually happened in real life, Geronimo.
Right.
But I didn't name it Geronimo. It was just a passing line. Probably I thought maybe they were wondering how the hell did he do that. And later on, what had not been there I could add. Mr. Obama himself announced the death of Bin Laden in my film. So our research was quite close to the real thing. And there were many such sleeper cells. And I wanted to, my uncle worked for the intelligence. So I always wanted to depict it in its proper gut and gore reality, not about malls and shaken not stirred martinis. So I wanted to go a little beyond and the actual what you see in a Ludlum novel or a Patterson novel that goes deeper into the terrain.
So that's what caused it. I mean, I was wondering if you're kind of concerned about the way Muslims are being represented and maybe
absolutely
this was, okay,
because
so that was one of the seeds of the film.
Because I wanted a voice from the other side of the world, and it is not pro-Muslim at all. It's pro-part of the world,
right?
Because it's a geopolitical thriller, and it is nothing new for India to talk for the world.
Right.
Khilafat movement itself is that. Right. Gandhiji, when he was saying, fight your war, what is your problem with what's happening in the Middle East?
Right.
But he felt he was already a world citizen. And that's what it is. This is a geopolitical thriller. Every country is involved, including India.
Right.
This pond will, a pebble thrown on this end of the pond will ripple across to Europe and America.
Being a star and a great actor has obviously helped you fuse those two and given you the clout to make a lot of the films that you really wanted to make. Do you feel that you may have satisfied your hunger for purer cinema or good cinema more had you been in the, let's say, the Naseeruddin Shah space where you were known not as a star but only as a great actor?
No, for me, my lust and hunger was for audience. It's not personal, it's public. So I am the son of Chaplin. I am not the son of Kurosawa, for that matter. I am not that intellectualized Bergman's son.
Right.
I respect Bergman. I admire the tenacity of purpose and his vision and all that. But I would rather be Chaplin's son. Then,
Yeah.
and I have no qualms about calling Buster Keaton my Chittappa. So that's the thing. I'm of a slightly different ilk, but I think Keselowski is also like that. He understands the larger cinema, but he wants to make that kind of cinema.
Right.
Because that is great aplomb and restraint
Right.
at the same time. That's classic. I mean that is emulatable, but I want to do this, going to more people.
Plus, I guess in Tamil Nadu, we don't have a tradition of art cinema as such.
At all.
Right.
And why fight against the tide and fail? I want an audience. And I wanted to take Tamil cinema to another height. If Hindi cinema could do it, if you can make a Mughal at a time when there were no clear indications, there were no studios forcing it,
Right.
why not do it now when Gurudat could do it? But they all slowly watered down, probably the fall of Asif, suicide of Gurudat, sort of scared other people from doing. But still, Gurudat did Achanak,
Right.
which is that marriage which we liked, because it is the father of Rambo.
Right.
If you look carefully, the seed for Rambo is sowed somewhere in India.
You just spoke of Guru Dutt. I have to ask about Waheeda Rahman, who's in Vishwaroopam too. How did you think of casting her? And I just have to ask you, what is one of your favorite films of hers?
Kagas Ke Phool.
Okay. How did you think of casting her?
No, that's because one, I wanted a double version thing, who could speak both the languages and also be a star, yesteryear star.
Right.
We were looking at it. Vaijayanti ji naturally would have been the choice, but she said, I have promised my husband that I will not act in my film. அவர்கிட்ட தான் கேட்கணும் நான், ஐயோ அவர் கேட்கலாம் வேண்டாம் அப்படின்ட்டு ஜோக் அடிச்சுட்டு வேண்டாம்னு விட்டுட்டோம் நாங்கள். பட் தட் வாஸ் த சாய்ஸ். பட் தென் வி வர் திங்கிங் அண்ட் சடன்லி Kagas Ke Phool is my favorite film, and then I just thought of the line "Bhakti ne kiya kya hasi sitam," and I asked her, and she also surprisingly agreed, and we had a whale of a time because we had discussions about Kagas Ke Phool, and I sort of squeezed out a compliment from her where she said I reminded her of the techniques and the way I work reminded her of Gurudat. I said that's because we were both dancers and we had a great time.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
So, your career has seen many transitions. You child actor to adult, pre and post K. Balachandar, pre and post Sakalakalavallan, where you became a massier star. The Pushpak Nayagan phase, where you slowed down and decided to take it one film at a time. And then, can we say that the latest dividing line in your career is pre and post Bigg Boss? Because I was just wondering if this surge of this Kamal in the populace, like in the memes and the other things, do you think that this is going to have a repercussion on the way Vishwaroopam 2 is received? Because it was not there in the first part.
My purpose of Bigg Boss is not like a transition from one career to another. It was from one career to another strategy. I had decided on politics some time back, but I was looking at ways and means with limited resource that I have. I was looking at Mr. Kejriwal and trials and tribulations that he had. So I wanted to avoid those things. We had a discussion also. He came and met me. So I thought Bigg Boss would be the greatest platform available
To reach the masses.
to reach the masses. Because look at it, with a 1,100,000 people gathering, look at the cost involved. I do 300 times that every Saturday. And if I just get across 2 sentences, worthy, and it's not evangelizing as such, but convincing.
Right.
If I could say 2 convincing sentences per week, it's worth all the trouble. And that's how it started. Otherwise, I'm not a great believer of reality shows. I'm not even interested.
Right.
I don't watch those things. I'm more history
Right.
kind of guy.
After the Pushpak Nayagan phase, except for the comedies that you did, the other films, they began to the perception was that they were a little A-center, that they were a bit for the intelligentsia, because they were definitely deep films. There were lots of philosophical ideas in them. Do you think Bigg Boss has kind of taken you back to the way Sakalakalavallan did? Did it take you?
Absolutely.
Right.
Because they don't see a Velu Naikar, they don't see Shaktivel, Guna or anything. They directly look into my eye. And they know they are talking, and that surprises. It's a mutually surprising intercourse,
Right.
where we are talking to each other for the first time like this, and they like it, and I relish it.
On season 1 of Bigg Boss, initially you got a bit of criticism and you took it, on the chin, and you came up on the show and addressed that criticism directly. Have you ever thought of doing something like this for the criticism you've received for some of your films?
No, that's not the purpose. Because you see, it's not that I'm saying customer is right, but he can be corrected with another film. Why fight over that film? He didn't like it.
Right.
So the idea is not to say I'm right. The idea is to make them say you were right at least.
Right.
That means the film after that will succeed. I've never criticized criticism. Especially if it's constructive, take it in the chin. If it is not constructive, it's a waste of time. That person is trying to do a one-upmanship show,
Right.
and I'm not going to facilitate with the platform.
Right. A hypothetical question. Had this been the Kamal of the 1970s, where you were beginning to get known as an actor, but you were not yet a big star, and had a Bigg Boss-like opportunity availed itself, would you have, taken it up?
I would have, but I would have gone not in the right direction. I would have started a Zoetrope and tried to take on AVM Studio, Reliance and stuff like that, which would have meandered into all directions with my lack of experience. But right now, I think I have taken the right direction and using the fulcrum to lift off a weight which I possibly cannot lift. No politician could have pulled it off. Bigg Boss is a big thing. It's like the beer hall putsch.
Right. Like Bigg Boss, the other big dividing line in your career is your entry into politics. Now, a lot of actors have opinions which they keep within themselves for obvious reasons. At what point did it all burst out? I mean, there was a point when you joined Twitter, and then the Bigg Boss happened, and people began to hear more of you. But did it all really begin when the events around the first Vishwaroopam happened?
See, my family is quite perceptive in that manner, especially Chandra Hassan. He anticipated my total dive into politics about 20-25 years back.
This was, let's say, in the 90s.
Tevarmagan itself.
Okay.
He said, I don't like the direction you're taking.
Because of the tone of the film.
Yeah, the tones were slowly changing. He said, where are you going with this? I said, no, I'm making a film. And then when he saw Mardanaikam, he understood. He said, is it going to be your last film? Maybe. I said, with this, you're planning something. Why is it that you're pitching everything into this? Then he said, are you thinking of politics? I said, oh, yeah, what is wrong? I mean, my father was in it. He said, don't do it. So he always brought me down in a rugby tackle whenever I tried to.
What was his reason for not doing it?
He said, you're not cut out for that. Don't go there. I said, who will clean the toilet then? If it's all about fecal matter and hygiene, who's going to take care of that hygiene? He said, that's all bunkum and hyperbole. You won't. You are worth much more. I could believe it because it was self-satisfying when you can agree with something right said about it. But then again with Virumandi, my mind was set because they troubled me.
Right.
Virumandi had no reason to get into trouble.
Right from the title, it became a.
It is all because they, like my brother, noticed that I had inclinations and I should be stopped.
Right.
And it started rolling from then on. And I kept, then they called me to join the party. These things happened. Discreet messages were sent. I was offered 100 crores. What will I do with black money of 100 crores? take it. And yes, it would have, I had only about 6-7 crores of debt, which rose to 6 times that afterwards because of my films.
Right.
I could have wrapped it up and settled it anywhere else. I didn't, but more and more it sort of invigorated me or enraged me, so to say, and it kept moving. It is like how Cho became a political analyst.
Right.
He didn't want to. He was happy. He would have been another crazy Mohan, happily doing plays,
Right.
living with friends. Probably have lived longer. We don't know. But they kept pushing him. They kept pushing him. They made him start Tughlaq. Then they made him become more volatile as a political critic by chasing him down.
Right.
He wouldn't have come to politics at all. I'm very similar to that, but only thing, I'm not going to sit on an armchair and comment like Mr. Cho. I'm going to come into the bloody battlefield and take them on.
And go do it.
Yeah.
One of the statements that keep recurring in your 80s and 90s interviews is, I am a limelight moth. And you've said it very unapologetically that, that's something that you just wanted. Do you think you'll miss that aspect when you leave films, as you've hinted you will?
Limelight is fame, that's all. I call it limelight as an allegory or a symbol. I still am. I want to be called a good man, known like that. How I deserve it is yet to be seen. I'm probably in the process of attempting to deserve that and die with that glory hovering over my head. That is how this moth will die.
Do you think you're a good man?
I do, but I'll have to convince others.
Okay.
If I don't believe in it, I won't even be asking for it. I'll just settle down and be what I am.
With many actors who entered politics, they were just actors. So if they had to give anything up, it was just that one aspect of acting. But you literally, have been a Sakalakalavallan in the sense that you've written lyrics, you've written screenplays, you've directed, you've designed makeup, prosthetics, you name it. You've done everything. You've even choreographed dances.
Yeah.
Now, each of these aspects satisfies a particular creative hunger in you. That lyrics at, this one, where your dance background is satisfied by your choreography and all that. Now, have you thought about how difficult it is going to be for you to give up all this? I mean, how will that hunger just go away because you're directing it to another place?
See, you think that it's dance that gives me the thing. Any kind of excellent execution of any form gives me that pleasure.
Okay.
And above all, learning a thing gives me the greatest pleasure. And learning language, again, is a thing which I do. People don't know that I'm a lyricist separately. I have about 200 unpublished poems. To write 200, you need at least, with my kind of pace, you need at least 20, 30 years. I've been doing it for 40 years now. 40 years of writing. I could still do that. And I do it. Now my friends say, you've stopped writing once a week now. Right. You're writing once a month. 3 months since you wrote your last poem. They remind me, yes, I could write. Above all, watching somebody do a great performance and understanding itself is as good as performing. This I've realized recently, right. Past 10 years I think. A good performance, well done, and if you know the artist.
Like, can you give an example?
Yeah, Shekhar Sen, he did Kabir. It's so simple. It's all about talent. It's all about one man and the audience. And it works for me. No gizmos, no 3D, no animation, nothing. But not that I'm looking down on animation and harking back to live performances. But the sheer brilliance of versatile talent and how he showcases it is as satisfying as if I performed it. It moves you, literally moves you.
So you're saying that your talent is satisfied by other people's exhibition of talent?
My talent, if I could raise the money I'll create what this industry failed to do, and I will take the credit single-handedly and die in that limelight of creating one of the fantastic film schools of the world in Tamil Nadu. We should have done it.
Is that still a possibility?
Yes, it's still a possibility. But I don't have to run the school. It's not the money we are talking about. The pride of an Aalavandhan. We are the largest film producers in the world next to China. And we also speak English, unlike China.
Right.
And we speak it quite well, though with an accent. And that's our thing. We can become international at a flip. Flip of a hat, we could become international. And that's what we should produce, and we can, because it is a global village. If Microsoft can have their factory here, our film schools can be here. And that's my dream. And that's nothing mean. It's much bigger than Vishwaroopam.
A general question, not specifically about you. Is it possible today to construct a cinema career with an eye on a political career the way Mr. MGR did? Because these are very different times. Do you think the audience will see a man singing Ondru Engal Jadiye or Buddhan Yesu Gandhi Pirandadu, songs like that, and kind of conflate it with the real person?
Not necessarily, but you can make a Malcolm X.
Okay.
You can make that kind of a film, or you can make a film like a political film like Vietnam, a documentary, and move people. It still has the power.
The medium still can do it.
Since the media is failing, the medium can hold up.
Right.
Because it's individual driving it. Of course, he will face much more pressure than the media, but it might slip through unexpectedly.
Right.
But the media is being pressurized now. It's failing not only by virtue of its corruption, but it's failing also because of its fear and deception.
Right. Will people watch is one thing.
Not only that, they'll be shut down. That amount of fear has come into the various wire pulling, tripwires. Big companies become smaller companies suddenly,
Right.
And connections matter. So media is the valor in the media. You can't find a Rachna that easily in
Right.
India. But no, I'm not saying that it will never happen. It has happened before. It can happen again in India. But medium itself is a larger perspective, and it's even becoming more and more versatile and open. So the Assange is possible.
When you say that you use Bigg Boss as a platform, that's a great analogy you gave of a fulcrum to kind of lift that weight. Your next project is Indian too. And especially given that the first one was about cleaning out corruption, did you sign this film with an eye on your political career?
Absolutely. But both the filmmaker and I concurred on that trajectory. That's why we agreed to be on that. Because he suddenly realized with all he got the idea when he saw my tweets.
Okay. Yeah. And that's how the thing
That's how because I told him long time back to go at it.
Okay.
I wanted him to give me the thing, the franchising, so I'll continue. I had it ready as 15, 16 years back.
Right.
I told him, but he said, no, why should we try a successful film and goof it up? There was in two minds.
I know I'm voicing the fear of many film lovers when I ask you this. For someone who knows so much about cinema, for somebody who considers himself a student of cinema, there's so much we still want from you, and you're definitely giving up films. You're saying, as in participating in films. Is that something that is going to eat away at you, that people are still going to want that Kamal at some point?
They might want. I want my dad. I want Balachandar and Nagesh now. But you can't ask for it. It's both logic and logistics that's going to stop me from doing that.
Right.
But being a student of cinema, I was just talking to you about creating more students for cinema. And teaching need not be done personally. If you're a catalyst
Right.
in doing that, that's good enough.
Right. This, and finally, I just have to ask you this. A lot of actors come, they have a phase of hits and then they fade away, and this has been happening over and over and over. But here you are, you're still here, despite all your hits, all your flops, despite trends changing and everything. How do you explain your longevity?
Because above all, I'm a film fan.
That explains it.
That's as simple as that. I love cinema more than myself.
And you think people sense that in you?
They sense that because they love cinema too. They recognize a co-cinema buff.
Okay.
And that's why they make them, they sit with me or allow me to sit with them.
Right.
And I could carry on for another 20 years in various roles, but I have work to do. You'll have to excuse me.
All the best for
Thank
your
you.
work and for Vishwaroopam too.
Thank you.
Thanks.